Welcome back to I Love This Game, podcast dedicated to the NBA. Canny, so let's talk about the Knicks today. They are on a 9-game win streak. Man. They've been absolutely killing it lately. I know there are a lot of things that I want to talk about today. Let's start with MIkal Bridges. Tell me a little bit about what you've been seeing with MIkal lately.
Man, I trying to, not cry while I talk about this because MIkal, man, he's been really coming around, bro. It's been the MIkal that I've been waiting to see here in New York, and that I knew that we were gonna see. This guy, he's a team first guy. He's a selfless player, and you could just tell watching him, man. If you'd seen him over the years, that he was just kind of lost, right? Like defensively. You came in expecting a guy that was going to be point of attack. He really was just every area, shooting, defense. He just was not there. As soon as, which I feel like is a little bit gradually, it felt like his shot started to gradually come back and that release got a little quicker and more normal. As soon as that started happening and he started gaining a little more confidence, you started to see that kind of trickle down to all the other roles that he plays on the team and the roles that the Knicks so desperately need. Man, I'm excited, man. I mean, you saw it. I mean, Christmas. Everyone saw on Christmas, but if you watched him in the couple weeks before that, it was kind of cooking up. It was coming around, dude. He was getting more confident, and I'm excited, dude. MIkal Bridges is a fucking winning basketball player. He's back.
No, I love that. I love saying that he's a winning basketball player because I think he was playing winning basketball before, but not to the same level. And it's like you said, it's with the shot, right, is where it started. But I've noticed it in a lot of other areas too. For one, he's pulling the mid-range shot way more than he was, right? And maybe that is he saw the three dropping, so he felt more confident about the shot. But those little mid-ranges are dropping, swishes.
Dude,
they look really good.
He hits him at a high clip too, man. 100%.
His mid-range game has looked great. He's been hitting more of his threes. Definitely that little glitch in his shot is mostly gone most of the time, I'd say. Sometimes you see it a little bit. But now it's almost like before he actually shoots it, he does it. It's earlier in the form, if you know what I mean. And then once he gets it up, it's pretty smooth. Maybe not quite where it was last year, but on the whole, I mean, it's also led to him playing better defense. It's led to him playing. It's just at first, at the beginning of the year, you could tell he really did not know his role on the team, especially offensively. And there was a little bit of a weird fit where he just didn't know when to do what with the ball. And maybe not all of a sudden, but at least gradually or a little all of a sudden, the Knicks offense looks so smooth with him as a part of it, right? Yeah. The thing that Cat has done extremely well so far, the thing that I thought OG did so well when he got to the Knicks, the thing that Brunson has done incredibly well as a ball dominant, huge time scoring point guard is to just have that smooth offense, right? Where things look like they're just happening the way that they're supposed to happen. And that's what Bridges has really done. He's shooting at the right times. He's taking it to the rim at the right times. He's playing the mid-range game at the right times. He's also backing the fuck off at the right times. Brunson's going to cook. We're going to feature Cat right now. Cool, I'm going to just play defense and get a steal or a block or whatever.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I've been thinking a lot about that, where Cat comes in, obviously, cold turkey game one. And, you and I have talked about this where it's man, he really integrated a lot better than we were expecting to, at least offensively, right?
So
defensively, much. I'm not even putting that on him. I'm putting it on Thibs and the lineups that they run, but that's a whole nother story. But with MIkal, I think it's a little tougher, right? If you're clearly the third option, right? Offensively. And it's not even maybe defined, or maybe these guys don't even think about that. But
yeah, dude, I don't know that he is the third option, to be honest. I don't know. He is lately, but I don't know that. I'm not sure that that's going to remain the case. If OG gets hot, if Josh Hart starts hitting a lot of shots and deciding to take the ball more, I don't know that OG
He's
is their third option. Like, definitely, he is like lately, but I'm not
dude,
sure. And I don't think he cares. Like you said, I don't know that
they need him to be that, and I think that's what it's gravitating towards, bro. That's what I was saying. Like, I think it's a good problem for the Knicks because you've got OG, you've got Josh Hart at times. I mean, those are more defensive players to me. We're like MIkal, yes, he's a defensive player, and yes, he can excel in that in terms of like he'll play team defense, he'll play individual defense. I think they've kind of figured that out in terms of like not putting him on like the best guard and all that. Like I think they've kind of figured that out, but I don't know, man. Like I think offensively, I think he is the third option. I think that's what the team needs him. Like he's the guy, like you said, man, he's more comfortable going into that mid-range, help mid-range, turn around, fall away. That's kind of his game. And I don't really see anyone else that you can just kind of dump the ball to and say, "Hey, go score." Like I don't like OG's game like that. I hate to say it. We'll get into OG a little bit later, but like MIkal is there's reasons why you pay 5 first rounders for the guy, man.
right,
Like
right.
you got that offensive ability that I think he can showcase, and I think he's getting into a piece of the season where like he's starting to find that comfortability. Like you're saying, like early on he was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, this and that. Well, I think now he knows what he's supposed to do. He's like, well, fuck, man. I gotta bail us out here, or I gotta kind of take over. Like he just looks more assertive in his decision making, and I think that's a huge piece of really any players fitting into their role.
Yeah. No, and further to the point about OG, like I actually want to get into that now. Just because it applies so much here. Like there's no doubt that MIkal Bridges has a much bigger offensive ceiling than OG Anunoby, right? Like MIkal Bridges can do a lot more on offense and is more skilled and has a better looking shot to say the very least. But as someone who watches the Knicks all the time, I think the Knicks are almost depending on making sure that OG gets some level of feature in the offense, making sure
Yep.
that OG gets to shoot a good amount, gets to put some stats on the board and justify his contract, right?
Well,
And
yeah,
it
that's the thing, man. Yeah.
those, but with OG, it kind of seems
Yeah.
like those things are like in his head, right? Like it seems like that psychology plays a kind of big role with him, and when he's feeling good about it, like he plays really well, and his shot actually goes in more, and he's just such a big threat added to a team that has so much offensive talent already. That, like, in my opinion, considering how OG is and how much they need to make sure he's getting points and stats and actually like getting to have his confidence at that level, I'm almost hopeful that like Bridges is cool taking a backseat more of the time and has that psychological maturity where he's just, okay, tonight's not going to be my night. OG's going to have 22 and Brunson and Cat are going to play hard. And okay, I'm going to play on defense and maybe
Yeah.
just shoot some threes and not have a big night. And I'm really hoping is that like that team comes to the ability where any player can do that during the playoffs, right? And
Yeah.
then we have such a big safety net if Cat actually does have a couple quiet games in the playoffs like he's had throughout his career, right? Then if he has some quiet games in the playoffs,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt us nearly as much. If like, okay, Bridges can step up, OG's playing super confidently, Josh Hart's been playing super confident, the way that it all can work together, the Bridges thing, I mean, it really could be a very big solution
Well, you're right. I mean,
to Cat, but
hopefully.
it's going to depend on him like not getting a big ego about it, honestly.
Well, and OG is not a guy that I worry about ego with, but I do agree with you that like the contract has to play into it to some extent mentally, right? Where it's like,
For him,
hey,
at least.
you're getting paid 40 plus mil a year. They're expecting more than just defense from you, and I can see at times where like it does seem a little bit forced from OG, where like he'll take like
Good.
some contested
I'll take
threes
it.
from like the wing or the corner, and I don't
It's
have a
fine.
problem with
I
it.
love it. I don't care.
I want him
Good.
testing that out, but
Yes.
I do think like when it starts to settle to the mean, MIkal Bridges is a much better offensive player than OG
Yeah, no, he
Anunoby.
is.
And
No, that's true.
obviously at this point in their careers, OG Anunoby is a much better defender. I mean, like
Right.
that's you know, I think that's the balance with MIkal, where you're like, hey man, I mean, we saw it in Phoenix where it was like, hey, you were runner up for DPOY, and that was with like a menial offensive load, right? Like you're just like a role player, and then you go to Brooklyn, your defense falls off when you're expected to be kind of the guy. So like New York's got to find this balance where he is a threat offensively and at the same time is able to be a capable defender, both individual and team wise. And I feel like it's starting to happen, dude. You can see it. So like I'm really excited about that, and I'm not worried about OG Anunoby. He started off real hot offensively. His shots falling off. I think it's gonna kind of come back to where we've seen it, and he's just a fucking even kill guy, even kill player.
Well,
He's a
first of
fucking
all,
fantastic defender, dude. Like
I was going to say
he's
he's
the
an
last guy
underrated
I'm worried
defender
about,
still.
dude.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Even today, he's an underrated defender, which is crazy because he gets a lot of love as a defender, but he's still underrated. Like I think he should be within like top 3 to 5 all defensive player of the year right now. I mean, they played the Jazz last night. I think he shut down Lauri Markkanen. Right, Lauri Markkanen's like a sought after asset of a player. There are big teams would love to be able to get him a trade. It's been a nonstop conversation piece forever. OG took it personally and shut him down. And you could tell OG was taking it personally. He was like, this is my assignment tonight. This is what I'm doing. And that's why I kind of like what you were saying about not worrying about his psychology, actually, because there are nights where he's just willing to play straight defense, not give a fuck about his stats. But it's like you said, when you're making $40 million a year, I really don't want OG Anunoby going into the playoffs averaging 8 points a game over the last 10 games of the season. That's like not what the Knicks need from him either. They do need more than that.
Not with where the rest of the team is. I agree with you, but at the same time, man, I'm just not worried about OG Anunoby. Like, I think if we're worrying about OG Anunoby in any capacity entering the playoffs, that there's bigger problems around the team that are kind of trickling down to him. You know, like that guy just fucking plays basketball.
That's true.
Dude. He plays winning basketball. So like, my only thing with him, dude, is like Thibs plays him too many fucking minutes sometimes. And then like on the other side of the court, dude, he's always busting his ass. So like it is what it is. He either makes or misses, but he seems to be like I think you were saying last week, like I'm confident in the shot. I just go up and take it. He doesn't look any different taking it. He's just missing them. So he looks a little tired to me, and makes sense when you're a fucking guy that's probably asked to be the number one defender on the team night in, night out, and you're playing 40 minutes a night. So like, Thibs is,
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's get into the Thibs thing right now, right? Because we have to talk about the Thibs problem if we're going to talk about the Knicks. I think if you watch a lot of Knicks, it's obvious. And some of the stats that you hear people talk about become obvious, right? Kevin O'Connor with Yahoo Sports had a stat that was wild, right? And that's that, and it was something that you sent me, a tweet that you sent me that said 4 out of the 5 top players in minutes across the league, this was a couple of weeks ago, were Knicks starters, right? So let's say it's 4 out of the top 10 or 15, whatever now. The 5th player on the Knicks, the 5th starter, was 38th in the league. There's not another team in the NBA where all 5 starters are in the top 100 in minutes, and the Knicks, the top 5 are in the top. Well, and then here's the stat that really made it bad.
Crazy.
The stat was that they were either 14th or 16th defensively in the NBA through the first 3 quarters of every game. And then in the 4th quarter of all games, they were 29th. And I don't care who you are, there's no way Thibs doesn't know that stat. And if you know that stat and you can't see you're playing you guys too many minutes, there's either something wrong with you or you're an idiot. I don't even know what to say about it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And then watching games and just watching him continue to do it, it just doesn't make sense. His approach to the whole concept of how he deals with the roster, right? What the rotations are, who's going to go in and out when, is kind of like random night to night. It's never consistent. He doesn't, other than the starting lineup, he doesn't have any other consistent backup lineups that he always puts in. Like he has a few things that he tends to do, but it's kind of a random mismatch. And if you
Yeah.
look at the guy's minutes night to night, it's totally like that. Look at Campaign. He'll play 7 minutes, 2 minutes, 18 minutes, 9 minutes, 2 minutes, 6 minutes. Like it's all over the place. And then
Yeah,
it just
man.
doesn't make sense to do that when you're literally playing your starters 40 minutes a night. And I just don't like it. It just I don't think it works.
No, man. I mean, I'm with you, man. We've talked a lot about this, and this is not just like the first year we've talked about this with Thibs, right? It's been a thing for at least this season and last season, and maybe the year before if you want to talk a little bit about it with Randall. And it's tough with Thibs, man, because like he's a guy that I think he gets a lot out of a little talent, but with the roster that we have right now, he just doesn't seem very fit to be managing it and coaching the team to me. And that's been my opinion for a couple months. I think he's a guy who, you're talking about a Tuesday night game versus the Wizards, and he's more concerned about winning that or thinking that he needs to play those guys 40 minutes a game to win that game versus fucking building these guys like Kolek, Huckporty, even Dadier. Even Deuce this year
I
just
was going to
feels
say you got
like
to add Deuce to that list for sure. Deuce
he
is not
minutes
getting enough
wise.
run.
Well, that's the thing, man. Like if you just pulled up the numbers, it looks he's getting minutes, but like exactly. You watch every game like I do. It doesn't feel he feels out of the flow, right?
He's
Like
not
it's
getting
like
enough run. I
he
don't
should
care
be
what
a
the minutes
guy
are. He's
that
not. Yeah.
you've been coaching this guy for 4 fucking years now, dude. You should know what he excels in and what he struggles with. And you should be able to kind of and just seeing him
I feel like
last year and seeing how
Tibbs knows
fucking good
that
he
though.
was, dude. Like Tibbs, everything I go back to with him is that he's just too set in his ways. He doesn't like switching up shit. He doesn't like getting uncomfortable. He defaults to the most seasoned players in every fucking circumstance. And when you got a roster of guys that like you went from a stable of players where like they were all a good blend of that to like maybe it's a little top heavy now, but you got a couple rookies that are kind of sitting there and you're like, these guys got some fucking talent. He's not fucking doing anything with those guys.
Right.
So like
Well,
I don't want Jalen
but
Brunson
it
playing
comes
38 minutes a game, bro. Like you got Tyler Kolek there. Develop that fucking guy. That man
right.
is a fucking winner. And he can run an offense and give a lot of engine to this team when Brunson's not on the floor that like I don't know another player on the roster that really has that ability, to be honest. So
Yep. No, Kolek is a beast, and Deuce McBride is a guy who should have a very stable rotation place in the roster. Right? Like it should be every
yeah.
game 3 minutes or 4 minutes left in the first quarter, 6 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever time point. Deuce knows that he's going to go in the game. And hey, Tibbs, guess what? Tonight, you're either not going to play Josh Hart or Bridges 42 minutes. One of those two guys is going to play 36. Right.
Dude,
And
it's
you're going
fucking
to
simple, right?
and you're
Like,
going to alternate those two things. Or OG is going to be the one that gets
man,
less minutes. And you're just going to rotate those in and out and say, okay, now you get to figure out, does Deuce fit better with OG and Josh Hart or with Josh Hart and Bridges, or is he better in Josh Hart's role? And Josh Hart gets to sit on the bench for a minute because guess what? We don't need him playing 46 minutes a game throughout the entire playoffs. That's how every player on the team ended up getting hurt last year. We watched, well, a little bit of Joel Embiid being the dirtiest player of all time added in, right? But
yeah.
it was way too many minutes across the board. And at the end, Josh Hart was having like that abdomen like injury or whatever it
Oh
was,
no,
which is like, it's such
he
a
was
wear and
fucked,
tear
dude.
style injury, right? Like it's just a bad look for Tibbs in that situation. And the way that these games are playing out, where it's like going down the stretch of the fourth quarter, there's 7 minutes left. he just brought Jalen Brunson back in a minute and a half ago, and he's not going to take any of the starters out. And it's like you said, it's against a random team in a game they don't need to win, but hey, they're only up by 5. So of course everyone's going to play the rest of the whole damn game. It's just not worth the cost of doing business. And furthermore, what's the real advantage? Is it like, okay, you really need the home court advantage in the playoffs that bad, so you're going to care that much about the regular season? Or is it a mindset? We're just going to play the best basketball possible at all time. Champions play championship basketball every day. I don't really understand what the motivation behind it is. Or is Thibs just like addle-minded? Like, what the fuck is it?
No, man, dude, that's a great question. I feel like it's a combination of everything. If I had to speculate, like, I don't think if you asked Thibs and you worked backwards and you said, hey, if you don't have home court, like, are you fucked or what? Like, I don't think he's going to say, yeah, we're fucked, right? So, like, yeah, so why are you compromising player development for regular season wins when, realistically, dude, like, yes, I think if you ran the odds on it, like a couple of these games, if you played some of these guys for extended minutes, yeah, maybe you lose a game or
You
two,
definitely do.
but you're not going to
More.
lose a fuck ton of them, right? Like that's my thing where it's like, bro, he needs to have the long-term vision, and Thibs is just not a long-term guy. He's proven himself time and time again to be just kind of like in the moment, and this is what we need to do to win the game. And like, even that, dude, like, I don't know. I don't want to get off on a Thibs tangent, but like, the Heat series, I mean, even in the moment, dude, the guy is not like a guru. Like, he could be tossed aside tomorrow, and this team would just go on. I don't think he's a big piece of this team at all with the current roster.
Interesting. Well, I don't see that happening. I don't see much of a chance of that happening.
I don't either, but I'm just on the record saying he's not doing this team any favors at this point. That's my opinion on it.
Well, let's take a move over here, because I think, as a member of Knicks Nation, Knicks faithful, Knicks loyal fan forever now, I'm probably amongst many people who was just so glad I was wrong about Cat and the Karl Anthony Towns trade. Because without question, the Knicks have won that trade. Cat is playing so good on offense. So good. Cat is, he's literally playing consistently some of the best basketball I ever saw him play in Minnesota, at least offensively. And even when his defense is bad, he's legitimately putting in big effort on the boards, really trying to rebound, really making sure that he's like at least getting something for it, because he does get beat on defense a lot. What were you thinking?
Man, I got to eat crow too, man. I was admittedly I was not a Cat guy, regardless of if he was on the Knicks or not. But I didn't like the trade.
I hated him.
But I have to agree with a lot of what you said. Like, the effort's been there.
Yeah,
He's offensively been fantastic. I think my caveat, or if you're going to go back and say, hey, my devil's advocate is saying, well, in Minnesota, offensively, he didn't look as great because he had Gobert on his team and he's clogging up the lane. Offensively, he's the 5 in New York. He can step out, and that is free for him to. I mean, we've seen him time and time again just kind of pump fake and just charge and either dunk it or just hit a fucking layup. So, like, he's definitely benefiting from the spacing, as is Brunson and as are the other guys off of Cat. But then, defensively, I'm not even putting this on Cat, but I just, I don't think that the answer is what we're doing right now. Like, I don't think the answer to winning a championship is trotting out this lineup with Cat at the 5, because guys just fucking score at the rim at will. I'm not even blaming it on Cat, because like, he's never been that guy. I don't know why you'd expect him to be that guy in year 7 or 8. But segueing into Mitch Robinson, that's that's the guy, right? I mean, I think every Knicks fan is waiting for Robinson to come back and just to see how this team changes, because there's not a move that they can make or really anything else that they can do to kind of improve that, right? And you just kind of have to hope that Mitch comes back and that he's able and healthy and willing to be the guy that everybody knows that he can on the defensive side of the ball and on the rebounding side. Because to Cat's credit, dude, he's a fucking animal on the boards, bro. He's been hitting. Nobody else besides Josh Hart is really rebounding at all. So, like, Cat's eating up a lot of these rebounds, and he's expending a ton of energy where, like, his energy could be better put towards different things. So, like, you know,
well, I mean,
Mitch is the guy. We're waiting to see what happens. And
I was going to say we'll see about Mitch and how Thibs is able to integrate him. That's going to be the real concern, because if you look at Mitch and you've watched him play a lot, he's a very underrated defender as far as rim protection goes. He's one of the top rim protection players in the league. He's a great
100%.
rebounder. He's not only a great rebounder, he's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league.
Yeah.
Which you're going to add that to fucking Josh Hart and OG Anunoby in certain lineups. That's not nothing, right? With Bridges flying in there. It's not going to be as good as having Hartenstein, but it's going to be really, really good, right? And he's also just, I mean, listen, it's tough because he's really a winning player when he's playing and playing healthy, but he's also one of the least healthy players in the NBA since he's been in the NBA, like consistently, right? I think he averages like 33 or 35 games a year, which is just so bad over like 6 or 7 year career. I mean, it's tough with Mitch like that, but I'm not even as worried about Mitch injury concerns as much as I am how is Thibs going to integrate him, because he can't be a starter, right? Like, I agree with what you were saying that they need his rim protection. They need that kind of defense, and it's not going to help the Cat offense floor spacing. But on the other hand, like in deep playoff games and series, you're going to need it, right? On the other hand,
100%.
like it just comes down to what Thibs is capable of doing. Because one, I don't think you can start him, because if you look at the starting five, there's not a guy you can send to the bench. Obviously, Brunson and Cat, you're not going to send to the bench. Josh Hart is playing too well. He's almost playing above his ceiling lately. He's playing so well that I think that there's no chance. You just can't even risk taking a hit on his ego to the point where you're going to put him on the bench. Bridges is too good to go on the bench. OG is definitely too good and too valuable, right? So that's 5 already. So you can't start Mitchell Robinson.
I think Hart's the guy that could and it probably would go to the bench in that situation. But I agree with everything else you said, where it's like if you're talking about a 6-man or a second lineup, Josh Hart doesn't really bring that offense there, right? Like, if you're talking about a 6-man, you want a guy who's kind of bringing some offense off the bench as well as some energy. Like, he obviously brings all the other intangibles, but, like, I mean, Josh Hart's my fucking guy, but, like, in terms of a 6-man with the roster you're talking about with the Knicks, with Mitch back, like, you know,
dude, I'll also tell you what about Josh Hart. I'll tell you what about Josh
DiVincenzo. That's the 6-man you need, bro.
I agree with that. I agree that they're missing Dante in the lineup right now, but it was worth it to get Cat as of so far, right? Yeah. Assuming Cat can play this well in the playoffs, it was worth it, right? But even irregardless, let me ask you this. Do you think it's at all possible that Josh Hart, and I've noticed this, it seems like since they started this podcast, he's become like really confident on the podcast. Like, he gets into his bag and his kind of swag, whatever, on the podcast. And like, it's very authentically him, and he gets to be funny doing it and everything, which is awesome. But it's also just like, I feel like it's really helped his confidence. And I don't know that you're actually seeing it on the basketball floor. It has any connection, but he's almost playing like it does. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like he's playing like, I'm going to back up some of the shit that I talk on this podcast, or like put myself in a position to talk more shit, because he knows he's getting so much viewership from it and everything. And they're having a lot of big time guests on, and like, and it's honestly fun podcast. I like it. It's good.
Here's my thoughts on that.
It's almost like it, bro. He's like the
That's it.
most dude. He's like the most
Dude,
facially expressive player in the league lately.
He's a
It's
guy that
hilarious.
I think more of it to me is due to like the trade with Randall and Devo. Like there's just not as much depth. Obviously, you lose Hartenstein on top of that free agency. So like Hart's role is just that much more important. I think it's just more of like that, where like naturally with how the team went and how the construction went of the roster, he's just more confident and comfortable because he's just more relied on. That's my prediction. He's not a guy that ever really left for confidence, man. I'll tell you, like as a Villanova fan,
Well,
he's.
I mean, listen, he's built a lot more confidence in his shot since the playoffs last year. Like he worked on the three a lot in the offseason. Right. You can tell it. First of all, it looks different. Second of all, he's shooting it.
He hit that
with
pull
a lot
up three.
Yeah, no, I know. Talk about it in his back because he knew he already had a triple double at that point, bro. That was his second triple double in a night. And let's go to the stat that I heard during the game. Right, apparently so that was second triple double in a row, and that gives him 10 career triple doubles, all of which he's had with the Knicks since late January last year. In the same time frame, every other player 6'4" and under in the NBA has 9 combined triple doubles. And I mean, he's playing like that lately too. Like even before the last 2 games where he had triple doubles, he's been in his bag. Right, Jalen Brunson was out last night, and Deuce was also out. So like he knew that they needed him to play a bigger role, and he was feeling it early on. Like he started out, I think he had 4 rebounds and 5 assists, or vice versa, in like the first 4 minutes of the game, and then he ended up going up to 7 rebounds and 8 assists with 0 points or something. Like didn't even give a shit, just winning basketball across the board.
He's literally. There's probably other guys I think you could probably put in this category, but like I envision a game where like this player doesn't even look at the rim, doesn't even try to shoot, doesn't try to do anything related to scoring, and then the rest of the impact that he has on the game besides that is like nobody's greater than Josh Hart, dude. The rebounding, the screening, just everything he does, dude. Like laying on the floor for balls, all the shit in the fast break. I mean, that's on it. Like I know this is like a well-known fact around the league now, but like, dude, his fast break impact on offense, like,
oh my God,
there's nobody that's what I'm saying. Like, dude, I mean, you've seen it. Like Jalen Brunson just walks the ball up the floor 90% of the time, but the 10% where they get the rebound, like Hart's got it. He just fucking goes, bro. And he doesn't even need to have numbers, dude. He just kind of gets there. He just gets to the rim and he finishes, man. Like, so like the way that he plays basketball, dude, is just like it's not gonna. It'll never get sour. It'll never get old because this is a guy that just plays winning basketball. Like he just does it. Like it's in his fucking DNA.
To that end, I don't know if I agree with that though. I'm concerned for him eventually. And it's why if you hear him talk on the podcast, he talks not like about playing that many more years, honestly. His game completely depends on his athleticism. He's a great athlete, and so much of his game depends on his speed and his strength. He plays with massive strength defensively. He is strong as an ox, bro. That dude,
he's strong as shit for his position, man.
Yeah, no, and he's fast as hell when he's on the break. A lot of like the things that he does that kind of make him go from just like a very good glue guy to becoming like I want to almost say the word exceptional player, which he's been like at least the last month. And in the playoffs last year at times too, for sure. I think the difference is just the athleticism. Like and all the effort things and all the things that you were talking about are just so much more effective when you're that good of an athlete. And I think that's something, by the way, that we see with OG Anunoby every single night. Right. I think we see to an extent, we see the same thing with Bridges every night too, by the way. Like I think that those 3 guys are all super athletes.
The difference with Hart compared to, well, I'm not even going to say OG, but just the difference with Hart versus like your average NBA player where like that player's view of themselves may change and this and that. Like, bro, Josh Hart's never going to be a guy that says, hey, I need to be shooting 10, 12 times a game. Like there's the athleticism piece, But then there's just like literally like the sheer grit and determination.
Yeah, he a
Is that
dog.
like
Yeah, he a dog.
like
Yeah, for a fact.
there's way better athletes
He
than
really
Josh
is a
Hart,
dog.
bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're talking about the NBA. Josh
Nah, he
Hart's a
is.
great athlete, but like he's not somebody that stands out as an athlete ahead of 25%
A
of
little
the
bit.
league, man. Come on.
I
The guy
maybe
he's
not in his size and stature, but I don't know. I think he's maybe
you
not,
know what I'm
but
saying? It's more his makeup that makes him
no,
what he
yeah,
is. So like, yeah, you're
dude,
right.
he's
Like when he starts to slow
it's
down, or yeah, of course, but like you can't take the dog out of that man. Like
yeah.
he's a
No,
fucking beast, bro. And he's never gonna
it
be
is
somebody that says, "Oh, I need 12 shots," or he's just a
right,
fucking workhorse.
right.
Like,
No, yeah, and the dog manifests itself too because other than having that like kind of magnetism as a rebounder, that almost Dennis Rodman, I'm going to jump at the right exact moment
dude,
every fucking time, right? Something about it. It's like
he's
he has
fucking
that
crazy, dude.
rebounding magnetism thing. But even
You
outside of
might.
that,
I'm gonna
it
say
is like
something
a
right now.
determination thing. It is like a determination thing, though. I agree.
I'm gonna say something right now. It could be the wine, and it could just be Josh Hart, my love for him. But like, is it time to talk about him as like one of the best rebounders of all time? Like he
No,
might. If you're talking
no,
about pound for pound, he may be.
nah.
He's in my top 5 rebounders of all time, bro.
Uh,
He's me. He's 6'3". Can you imagine being in an NBA court? I'm grabbing 0.6 rebounds a game, bro. This guy's he's like
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he's 6'3". I'm going to say that. I think he's 6'4", 6'5". All right, so we're gonna start there. I don't think he's 6'3",
even if he
and
is, bro, whatever.
he's a really, really good rebounder. Is he a top 5? Maybe like if you're saying pound for pound, could he be in the top 5? I doubt it. Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to give that one a long
Think
thought.
about it.
That's
Think about it.
all right. All right, fair.
We
Putting it
don't
out
need to
there. I
answer it
like
right
that.
now. I'm
No,
just
no, I
tossing it
like
out
that.
into
Putting
the
it out there. I
universe.
like it. Yeah, yeah. Throwing it out there. Maybe he'll prove it this year. Like fucking, he'll.
Yeah,
Let's see more. Let's
he's
see a couple more 20 rebound games from Jay Hart. You know what I'm saying?
he's a fucking savage, man.
Awesome. So, all right. I also want to talk at least real quick about Leon Rose, and it's kind of just an offshoot of the whole cat thing because and I know you were the same when the trade happened. We were both devastated. I was as much the opposite of a cat fan as you could be, and I've been proven wrong this year. And it's like you said, it's a little bit about his mental toughness and overall approach. Did you see last night when he hit his head into the stanchion?
No,
He hit
I didn't see that.
so all right. So Cat goes for a layup and gets fouled or whatever, hits his head, falls, hits his head on the stanchion, and immediately like you could tell is like so shocked by the pain. Sometimes like you fall and hurt yourself, and more than like you're in pain, you're just straight up afraid. It's a fear thing more than a pain thing. You could tell he was having one of those because he literally crawled under the nearest seat that he could. The dude sitting there like courtside behind the hoop was just like looking down at his jeans like, do I move? Do I not move? I got this giant man right at my feet. This is fucking awkward. What do I do? Like he kept going
What
to get
point
up
in
and
the
not get
game
up. And
was this?
I don't remember, but I mean, I guarantee anybody could go back and watch. What did they
'Cause
play
I
the
watched
Jazz
a
last
good bit
night?
of the game. Yeah, I watched a
Was it
good bit of the
Utah?
game. I wonder if it was when Thibs just kept his ass in there when they're up by
Honestly,
18 or 20 in
it
the
could have.
fucking
It's
last 10
possible.
minutes.
It's possible it was the previous game if it wasn't last night. Either way, here's the thing. So it happened. I'm like, oh no, Cat's having one of those moments because we've seen, like it's like you said in the past. Like we both kind of thought he was a pussy before he came to the Knicks, and he's not been acting like it at all this whole year, which is awesome.
No, he's
But
not.
last night, so he hits the side of the stanchion. He like crawls and he's like grabbing his head and like kind of like I don't want to say he was at least shaking a little bit, but you could tell he was wildly shaken up in the moment. The dude sitting there literally had no idea what to do. And then like out of nowhere, he got up and just like decided to have a straight face and went to shoot a foul shot and was like, you could see very shaken up, but like also like a determined mindset of I'm gonna have my composure together right now. I'm in fucking Madison Square Garden. I'm not gonna let this fan base see me as a pussy. Like, you know, that's something that he's at least talked to somebody about or thought about a lot or whatever the case may be. But I loved it in that moment because I don't even know if he made the foul shots, and I don't care. The fact that he the fact that he wasn't showing the pain or whatever the case may be after going through like a whole thing like that right away, I was super psyched about because I expected the opposite. You know, like I
Dude,
expected him to have a huge reaction. He didn't.
I didn't even see that, but like in general, my take on it is probably what you've just said in some ways. Like, I thought he was a huge pussy of a basketball player, and I was wrong, dude. Like, he came here and he almost from the start has not played like that. Like, there's been maybe a couple games where I'm like, all right, you're playing like kind of a bitch, but like everybody does that shit, dude. Like, he's been pretty incredible in terms of like the effort. Like, the effort has never been a question. He's been playing tough. And like I said, man, like a lot of my complaints about him are really more about like the coaching staff and the positions that they're putting him in and expecting from him. So like, he's been fantastic, man. Like, I couldn't agree more, dude. Like, wanted to rip on Leon, but ultimately, you know, losing Hart wasn't Leon's fault. And I think this move is it's hard to say. I think as time goes on, it may start to look a little bit more even than it does now. But like, man, the offense looks fucking good. Like I was expecting it to. You know, like,
yeah. Well, let's just go through what Leon Rose has done in the last few years. All right, and the whole management of the Knicks has done. They signed Jalen Brunson to a contract that's turned into one of the that at least was before he did the extension, one of the best contracts in the league. Traded a first round pick and Cam Reddish for Josh Hart. We've seen how unbelievably good of a trade that was. Traded RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly for dude, right. And then he traded RJ Barrett and Quickly for OG and Precious. Phenomenally good trade. Getting OG in that was humongous. Traded Bogdanovich and 5 first-round picks for Bridges, which, I mean, we could say to be determined, but honestly, it looks like the Knicks are going to be good enough for most of the time frame of those picks where it's not going to really matter. And Bridges is really fucking good.
Let me stop you. That's the one move that I don't like in retrospect. Because Quentin Grimes,
yeah, he's looking
pretty good
again.
player. And if you say, hey, what is this roster missing? I think Grimes fits the bill pretty well. I hate to say it. And you had him.
So they gave away
on
Grimes
a rookie deal. He was in that Pistons deal with Bogdanovich.
Well, that was with the Nets. Was he with the Nets in the Nets deal for Bridges? With the 5 first rounders?
No, I'm saying they got Bogdanovich from the Pistons.
Oh, and that's when they gave him away Grimes, is the Bogdanovich trade.
Yep.
Right.
So eventually, like essentially, yeah, you're right. Like they threw in Bogdanovich with the Bridges trade, but like it was more
maybe they wouldn't
have. Yeah, but
maybe they wouldn't have been able to make the salaries work if they didn't have Bogdanovich. Like maybe they got him planning on trading for Bridges, which by the way was, if not something you and I discussed at the time, like at least fodder at the time. That was definitely something that I'd at least heard about. No, fair enough.
I didn't love that trade. I remember talking about it then, where it was like I like Bogdanovich as a player, but I actually thought Grimes was like,
I was like
contract
Grimes.
for contract. That was a bad deal.
Nah,
that was trading
because Grimes
was
no. Yeah, he was a really good shooter and he could defend. I mean, like,
plays fucking great defense, man. Yeah, and
exactly. He's
showing
good
out on Dallas right now, man.
Yeah, right. He's been playing good.
They wish they had him right now. That's the one guy. But
I don't know.
I agree with you, man.
I don't know if they would have been able to get Bridges. So I don't want to say that. And also, I think the Bridges trade is actually looking really good because I don't think the aggregate of what you're going to get with those 5 picks are going to be better than the guy you got, and you need the guy you got for this team to make a run.
You need him now, right?
Going on, yeah, that's exactly right. Right, like
that's. You're getting him at a contract.
I think it was a great trade, like nothing short. Though the one thing I will say is that I think the Bridges trade, they overvalued him just a little bit, but part of that is because of the Cat trade they had to include Dante, right? Like if they were hoping to not include Dante DiVincenzo with Randall in the trade for Cat, What if they thought they could get Cat back without giving away Dante and keep the Nova Knicks 4 together? I think that actually maybe was something they were hoping to do, because then I could understand the value of Bridges a little more, and I'll say that because of this. Bridges plays so fluidly with Josh Hart whenever Brunson's out of the game, and Brunson plays so fluidly with the both of them that, like, you could tell they have that experience. And it was the same way with Dante DiVincenzo last year. So imagining having the 4 of them together, I do think that even though the team's been playing really fluidly on offense already, I do think it would have really helped the flow of the team to have all 4. And if you could kind of have the team you
I
have
mean,
and
imagine
have kept
Dante on
Dante,
this
like,
team,
yeah,
bro.
that's what I'm saying. Right. It would be really, really good. So, like, that to me maybe is what they were thinking when they gave away as much as they did for Bridges, because I think Bridges' value would be elevated even further if Dante was still on the team. That's kind of my point. Just because those
Well,
two would
yeah,
work together perfectly.
Well, I don't necessarily know who was like driving this, talking point or whatever, but there was like this sentiment surrounding a lot of Knicks Twitter, at least, that it was kind of like, oh yeah, well, it's okay we gave up Dante because we got Bridges now, as if they played the same sort of position or role, or like, yeah, they have some skill sets that overlap, but like, it's not the same. You know what I mean? Like, Bridges doesn't fill that Dante role offensively,
Right.
man. Like,
No,
there's nobody on the roster that's just that fucking
sniper.
heater sniper. Like, as good as Bridges is, man. Like, he's 3-point shooting wise, he's a spot up guy and catch and shoot. Dante's off the dribble a little bit. He's just a little more dynamic from the 3.
You know what's tough about this though? It's so hard to say this because it's like we're thinking, if you could add Dante to this team, they'd be so good. It's like you're saying, I think he'd be such a perfect fit. I think he'd be way better on the Knicks than he'd be on any other team. But at the same time, it's real easy to say that because of what he would bring as a shooter. But I mean, if I had to pick between the two players, Bridges is obviously a better basketball player. I don't think there's any
Like,
question about that.
overall
Like,
impact, yes.
yeah, who do I want in
But
a playoff run more between the two? Like, yeah, the Knicks the Knicks need the interior
yeah,
defense more than anything right now, but we got to hope we're going to get that back with Mitch. And we got to hope Mitch is healthy. Right. But aside from that, it's like you said, they really need a sniper. And I mean, right now they're kind of playing like the aggregate 3-point shooting abilities of OG, Bridges, and Josh Hart has been like having a sniper, because they've all 3 been shooting the 3 real solid in general
but
for the
it's
whole
like,
year,
if you're
and they're
looking at
doing
it
it
like,
with confidence.
yeah, I just don't.
The Dante problem is this
It's just
though.
not going to get
If
it done,
listen,
man. It's just not going
listen,
to get it done.
if the Knicks had Dante this year, do you trust that Thibs would have been like delegating the minutes allocation appropriately? I don't. How the hell would he figure out the minutes allocation for this
Well,
team? Who would he be? Who would he be put on?
you're not,
Like, would Dante be
you're not going to
playing
get
12 minutes a game? Is
you're not
that's
going to get
Thibs'
me
style? Dante is
fucking
playing 14 a game. It's
backing up
ridiculous.
Thibs, bro. Like, I don't know what the asshole would do. I mean,
I don't know,
Dante's
man.
probably get 15 minutes when he needs
That's
25. I
awful.
mean,
Then I'm
it's
glad they got rid of him for his own sake, because that'd be a joke. He would deserve so much more than that. Like, if that's not a 24 to 28 minute a night game, like, come on. He's too good. He's too good of a player all around. He's a good defender. He's a sniper, at least on the team. Like, all right. Anyway, that's the Thibs
no,
thing.
but
The Thibs problem is just like it's invasive, dude. It gets into every Knicks conversation. Just the Thibs roster minutes
well,
management issue is lack of ability to have any consistent lineups. Ugh, oh my
man,
god. Okay. But
let's talk about it, bro. Let's talk about Thibs.
I mean, what more is that? I think we've already said it all, honestly. Like, because I think we've said our concerns, but
Well,
it's also going to be on him soon. Mitch is supposed to
here's
come
my
back
thing,
relatively
bro.
soon. It's going to be on him to figure it out.
That's fine. Let me just give you my Thibs synopsis here, because some of it might overlap with what we were talked about, but like, dude, this team is not deep right now, and I say that from the perspective of somebody that's saying like it has the ability to be deep. he's not looking at it like that. You've got Tyler Kolek. You've got Huck Porty.
Yep. Huck P, that's my guy.
Like,
Yeah, I love Huck P. He's a good player.
You got, dude.
He's a plus basketball player.
Dude.
I mean, he's rough around the edges still. He's a clear rookie and rough around the edges, but he's a good fucking basketball player, that kid.
So you got to get him some fucking minutes.
You're right. No, you got to get him some run and some experience. And no, you're right, because like he's the type of player where I could totally see the Knicks losing him. He goes to another team and it's like, oh, look at the diamond in the rough they found. Ariel Huck Porty. Who the hell is this guy? And I'm over here screaming about Huck P and how fucking good he was early on with the Knicks. Which he's played really good minutes with them too at times. Like he's looked like this guy's ceiling,
where he got
really
like 25 minutes a couple games, and then like just never. He was either fucking just sitting on the bench or just
no,
exactly
and
my
further,
point, dude.
No, further to your point, last night Kolek played like 12 minutes, and honestly, he looked freaking dominant. You know what he reminded me of?
Fantastic, dude.
Nah, dude, I might catch some flack here, and if you want to call me a racist, fine, but he did not look like Jalen Brunson in any way last night. He reminded me so much of Steve Nash in the way that he has that off timing, dribble through the floor and find whatever ends up being there. Totally no hesitation to let the ball go from three. Like he was fucking kind of dominant in the minutes he played last night. I couldn't believe how good he was and how much of a plus player he was. And it's like you said, he gets no run with this team. He only played last night because not only was Jalen Brunson out, but Deuce McBride was also out. And if both those guys weren't out, Kolek gets zero run that game.
So it's right, as he does almost every game. Right?
Every game. I was going to say he never plays, which is so stupid.
Let's link this back to another point that you made earlier that I'm just kind of getting back in my head when you talked about the Knicks fourth quarter plus minus.
Oh, God, disgusting.
So
yeah, no, it's the defensive ranking.
I've got a couple of thoughts on this. One, you already touched on, which is, you play these fucking guys 45 minutes a game. What do you expect when they're fucking worn down and trying? The other piece of it is a lot of these, and you're going to agree with this, is that like a lot of these Knicks games have been blowouts in the fourth quarter. There's been like maybe a quarter of the games this season where like they've just blown the shit out of the teams that they played, and the fourth quarter didn't even matter. Yep. And Thibs will either keep playing those fucking assholes again
till about 3.5
minutes in the same, or he'll do some weird fucking combination of players where
you're right, and he leaves Cat in, and it's insane. So, you're right. You're completely right. So you're about
like, that. Okay, so you're up 30, and you don't give a fuck if you lose 15 points in the fourth quarter or not, or you're playing depleted guys. So for me, it's like, bro, it's just fully supporting what we're saying about Kolek. Is like, there's so many more minutes that could be played for him, whether it's because of guys just needing a break or because there's an opportunity to play him because the game's out of reach. In both situations, he's not getting enough burn. So, like, I sit there every time it happens. I'm like, "What the fuck's this guy doing?"
Here's the thing, dude. We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out because Mitch is gonna come back. He's gonna have to figure this roster out, right? Like it's like we were talking. We had the whole starter conversation. How's that gonna play out?
Yeah.
Tyler Kolek. By the way, I don't know if you know this. He scored like 35 points in a G League game. Or 40 points in a G League game, playing like 42 minutes of it yesterday, the same day before the Knicks game. And then came out and like, I really do think he looked as good, if not better than I've seen him look all year yesterday. I don't think Thibs can ignore that. Like, he's going to have to, like, I mean, it's like I said, we'll see. We'll see what he does with Mitch. We'll see what he does with Kolek. I mean, I completely
put my
agree
money
with
on
you.
Thibs ignoring it.
I hate that because I agree. I think, as you said earlier, him not caring about player development and only caring about regular season wins is just not good. And furthermore, I don't think that having a 1 seed or being that high of a seed is going to really help your championship odds. Like you're going to have to go through the Celtics no matter what you do, right? The likelihood is first round, you're probably going to have to deal with either Atlanta or Indiana again, or the 76ers, and it's all going to, any of those options kind of suck for the Knicks, but that's how it goes if you want to win a championship. You got to go through the fucking first series that sucks, and then you got to beat Boston, and then you can take down Cleveland and see what you got in the finals. But like at the end of the day, I don't think that completely letting go of player development, completely just running these guys into the ground over and over. And by the way, Jalen Brunson just took a game off and maybe had an injury for it. I don't know. These guys have played so much since early on before Christmas, like the last 9 days. They've had like 6 games in like 10 days or something crazy, or 9 days.
Yeah.
They've had a slew. I mean, granted, it's been easy teams, and they're on a 9-game win streak now, I think. And they're just, I mean, they do look
you saw it,
amazing.
dude.
But
Those Wizards games were not easy though. Like,
so take some fucking L's. You don't have to win every goddamn game. Like, recognize that your
no,
team was hurt for the entire playoffs last year. Jesus fucking Christ,
I
Thibs.
agree, dude.
Save these guys some legs. Let Bridges get a night where he plays 36 minutes for once in his life. The guy has played 560 some like NBA games without missing one, and you're running him 42 minutes out there like a savage monster. Jesus Christ.
Well, dude, that's my concern, and you brought it up with Mitch coming back. Where obviously, if Mitch comes back, the hope and the thought would be like, to me, he's the starting center, right? And if he's not the starting center, he's playing big minutes as the backup 5. I don't really know what Thibodeau's plan is, but like in general, I think you almost need him to be the starting center if you're going to strive to achieve the goals that you need for the organization.
Let's be clear though. When you say starting center, I don't think you mean finishing center. I don't think he needs to be a part of the team down the stretch.
That's not what I'm talking about. Just let me finish this point.
Okay.
So regardless of whether you see him finishing games or not, he's a big piece of the team and playing core minutes at least half the game as a 5, right? So now all you've done the entire season is play Cat as the 5, and it's been great on offense for reasons that we discussed. Opens up the floor more. He doesn't have that Gobert fucking clogging up the paint. You know what I mean? Easier to defend as a team. But all you're doing is playing a different style of basketball than what I think your highest peak is when Mitch comes back. So like when you've got Huck P or a different type of player that maybe fits that mold, obviously not as effective, but you're playing Cat at the 5 and you're playing all these guys in you're just getting them assimilated to a type of basketball that really isn't going to be the type of basketball that they're going to need to play to win a championship. I just feel like it's a waste of time. That's been my whole thing with it. It's like Thibs is just wasting time.
Listen, let's be honest here. Even if Mitch comes back and gets hurt again or whatever and isn't in the playoffs, it's not like the style of Knicks or the style of basketball the Knicks are playing makes it impossible to win a championship. They're still definitely contenders, even doing what they've been doing, even running Cat at the 5. They're still an excellent basketball team. They're one of the best offensive teams in the league. They have a ton of talent, even though they have very little depth. I personally
personally don't see them as a championship.
They're a threat,
serious threat without Mitch coming back.
They're a threat to come out of the East right now, even without Mitch. They're a threat. I mean, I don't expect it to happen, but they're for sure one injury on the Celtics away from being a real threat. Right? Like at that point, things really open up in the Eastern Conference.
I'm with you there. I just think, we both have seen playoff basketball, and even just seeing how the Knicks played last year, there's not a lot of basketball being played.
Yeah, now you're right. Yeah, you can't run. Yeah, how are they going to run Cat at the 5 for like 40 minutes a game in the playoffs? You really can't do that. You're right. Also, can you even expect Cat to do that without getting hurt? It's so physical in the playoffs compared to the regular season. It's a war in the playoffs compared to the regular season.
He seems like a pretty durable dude, but like, I don't know.
He's been durable so far this year, man. He's been playing great, and he's been physically durable. I mean,
I don't blame him at all, man. He's from what he's been asked to do, he's been fucking incredible. Like,
yes, 100%. Yeah,
my biggest concerns are with fucking Thibodeau. And
so how good do you think Cat's
personnel wise? I don't in terms of guys playing the role that they're asked to do, I think everybody's getting close to maxing out from where they should be. Bridges was the one guy that I think everyone was like, what the fuck? Like, what's he doing compared to what we're expecting it to be? And we're starting to see that shift into like a more comfortable zone, right? Everyone's like, okay,
Right.
he's getting
No, you're right.
comfortable.
Well, at
He's
least
playing great defense.
well, the starting five is maxing out. But
Well, right.
as
But
you
then
said, right, like
when
the
you don't
bench
have
is
a
just
deep
giving
bench
no
and you
time.
refuse
Yeah.
to play other guys to develop a bench, then what the
Right.
fuck do you have? So yeah, I mean,
I don't know. It's I guess we'll find out when Mitch comes back. We'll see how he tries to do it. I agree with you. I actually agree with everything you said there. I think you're completely right about all that. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I
well,
do think they're
with
going to
Mitch,
need
dude,
to have at least a lineup with Mitch that's a reliable lineup they can throw out there in situations at the very least.
dude,
At like where Cat's comfortable with that, where Jalen Brunson knows what to run and
well,
everybody
that's it,
knows what to
man.
do.
That's really it. It's like Mitch without like, I mean, bro, I don't know.
Also, who goes
Mitch
to the
got
bench?
comfy with
Honestly,
Randall, bro. Like
bro,
he can. I think Mitch can make it work with Cat. I really don't worry about
I
that as
don't
much
think
as I initially thought.
who hits the bench. You cannot put OG on the bench, and I don't think you can put Josh Hart on the bench. You're going to put Bridges as a 6-man. That is the meanest, toughest, fucking harshest thing I've ever seen.
No,
That guy is so fucking good at basketball. Put him
you're
as a
probably
6-man
putting OG. You're probably putting OG
as a 6-man. 40 mil a year,
with
OG.
that lineup because you need offense.
I don't like. I don't,
I like JB.
dude. Believe it or not, I actually think as much as it would. I don't know, man. I honestly think I'd probably put Bridges on the bench at least, like, but I don't know, man. I'm so not Thibs that it's weird because with most, like, okay, so for most coaches, you can imagine a coach being like, Ty Lue is going to start with Bridges on the bench, but he's going to bring him in and give OG a rest or give Mitch a rest 7 minutes into the, with 7 minutes left in the first quarter, like super early in the game, less than half a quarter in, he's going to rotate quickly.
Yeah.
You can't imagine there's a world where Thibs will do that consistently. Whoever's taken the hit of the bench role now is a bench role, which means a
It's
lot
in the
when
first
Thibs is
9 minutes at least. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's a
Well, that's why I think like I don't think that there's a good answer because like no matter who you pick, the guy that's coming in, and you're right, dude. MIkal might be the guy just for the fact that
it can't be
offensively
anyone
he
else. That's the
becomes.
only guy.
You're right. You're right. It can't be OG because like as a 6-man, I don't think he's nearly as effective. You're
And
right. MIkal's the guy.
it can't be Josh Hart because he's playing above his head. He's playing above his ceiling. He's playing
He's
better
too
than he is as a
tall.
basketball player. And you
Well,
don't
and he
fuck with
brings
that when you got
nothing
it.
offensively, like in terms of like shot creation
I don't
off the
care.
bench.
I don't care.
No, I'm
Josh
just
Hart
saying
might
like
have the
that.
most heart in the league.
Oh, 100%, dude. I'm just saying, like, when you look at a
Can't put
six
that on the
man,
bench.
that's why
Can't put
Dante
on the
was so
bench.
devastating, bro, because he comes in,
Right.
he's an instant.
Right.
Whereas, like,
Well,
MIkal kind of brings that same sort of feel in a way,
instant
right? Like,
offense, a
compared
little
to
bit of at
OG
least a little
or,
right. Or Josh
yeah,
Hart.
yeah,
He's more
yeah.
instant offense than either, so it'd have to be him. The problem is you can't rely on Thibs to remember that he's on the bench and then he has to come in the game. Maybe Thibs just has a memory problem during the games. Like maybe he just needs the assistant coaches to be like, hey, like Bridge has been sitting for fucking 14 minutes.
I don't know, man. I can't have these conversations about Thibs. The
Yeah,
fact that
I
we're
know
even talking about
that
Thibs'
they
memory
hurt, man.
problems is fucking
I know it
like it's
hurts my
not
heart.
invalid. It's just fucking crazy, man.
It
It's
hurts my
just
heart, dude. The Thibs problem hurts my heart. I don't know what to say. Well, I guess with that said, we're gonna call it a podcast here. But I think that's kind of we're both super up on the Knicks, regardless of our feelings for Thibs. And any final thoughts here, Canny?
oh man, a lot of home games coming up. Interested to see, how they keep it moving, man. I think they're gonna.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna be between 50 and 55 wins here. So we'll
Well,
see
they have
how
the
that shapes them up.
toughest schedule in the NBA for the remaining portion of the season here. So
Yep.
as you noted before this win streak, they had a lot of easy games. They won every fucking one of them. Go Knicks. But they definitely have a tough streak of games coming up, even with a lot of home games. And the rest of the season's kind of a bear. So, I kind of agree. 55 wins is probably a good number. That would be great. 55 wins I would take with this team. That would be solid. But
100%.
on that, yeah, I think we're going to call here. And thanks everybody for listening. And I think we can easily say we both love this game. Peace.